Martin.
Hello, Ralph. How are you doing today?
I am excellent. And yourself?
I'm also excellent. Why am I excellent? Well, we could say that it's because I picked up a new watch, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
You did this today.
Literally a couple hours ago.
Ooh.
So
yeah,
we'll discuss all the ins and outs of that as well.
Yeah, because I think that's how we usually start, right?
Exactly.
What are you wearing? So what
before we say, who are we?
All right. Okay. We are the Lume Plotters.
Exactly. So, and we are now, I believe this is episode 7.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, we're getting our groove. We're figuring out what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But okay, let's talk about what's on our wrist. Ralph, why don't you go first?
Yeah, we are getting the groove of what we're talking about, as well as our technology getting sorted. We have new recording stuff coming in every time we actually record something. So we figure it out while we're going, but I hope it's getting better and better. So what I'm wearing is what you were wearing. I think
the last time we were sitting right here.
Yes, exactly. So I got the Pelagos 39. And I'm extremely happy with it. I think since I don't have a Rolex Submariner, which is one of the watches that I thought I would always want, and I don't have, I now have this Pelagos 39, and for now, I
just pulled out a Rolex Submariner to compare the two. So there you go.
So now we have to break the recording because I have to figure out. No, it's okay. But my point is, I think it has absolutely scratched the itch. I mean, I love titanium watches in general, and it's a lovely dive watch. It has a lot of retro charm, but it's modern. I'm very
I would say it's very modern. I wouldn't say that there's any retro charm. The charm that it has that's quote unquote retro is the harkening back to the snowflake dials of yore, right? With the MN Submariners MN and Submariners. So having the square indices, having the snowflake hour hand, that does show tribute or pay tribute to the original Marine National dive watches. Mm-hmm. So, for those of you that remember that we're...
What are you wearing now? So that's
what I'm going to get into.
You had a Pelagos 39. You don't have it anymore.
Exactly. I sold it. I mentioned this in the last episode.
Exactly. So what's on your wrist now?
Currently, the watch that I just picked up. I've been down a whirlwind ride in the last week or so. Originally, I sold the Pelagos 39 because I thought it was too similar to my Submariner, which they are very, very similar. But I wanted to replace it with something. And a part of me had this passion for the Cartier Santos. And I didn't want to mention anything in the last podcast when you asked me, what are you going to buy with this newly sold watch? And my thought at the time was I was going to buy the Cartier Santos, the medium size without the date function. And it actually didn't, I bought it and I brought it home and I tried it on in the comfort of my own home. And lucky for me, the Cartier has a 30-day return policy. And that's the reason I took it home. Nice. So I didn't end up like with my Pelagos where you cannot return anything to the Rolex boutique and you're just out and you have to sell it yourself. So I ended up returning it. It just didn't speak to me. I don't know why. I just, I like the watch. I respect the watch. They tons of history in that watch, but it just didn't speak to me. And so I returned it. And even at the time when I was looking at this, I was already bidding at Timepiece 360 auctions on a Tudor Pelagos FXD. And as we know, not having a bracelet on it and being blue is a very big difference to a Submariner. And I think that I have kind of found the one that I need to have in addition to the Submariner. And this brought us to the idea of we're both wearing Pelagai. And so let's talk about dive watches. We'll talk about the history of the topic for today, history up until now, where the modern design for dive watches came from, and of course, certain standards and top picks for those of you that might be interested in picking up a dive watch.
Yeah, so I think maybe we don't have to go through the entire history of that.
No, a quick history. Come on.
Okay,
we have to. So you own the watch.
Blancpain 50 Fathoms wins.
Of course, correct.
As the first proper dive watch.
Yeah. By proper, what do we mean proper?
Proper as in something that could dive about like 100 meters or 50 fathoms, which is about 93 or something meters.
But what was their big contribution?
The big contribution is the unidirectional bezel, I think, even though I think it wasn't in the first version, but it's something like the turning bezel. It had the gaskets, multiple gaskets in the screw-down crown.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think, I'm not 100% sure, I'm not up to date. I saw a very good talk about that from Jeffrey King. I think, is it named Jeffrey King, on the Horological Society of New York. It's on YouTube. I recommend doing that. A couple of years ago, and he talked about the history of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and at the time, the bit of competition they had with the Rolex Submariner at the time, and how Blancpain actually won a couple of these contracts with military equipment.
Correct. Yeah. So a fun fact here is that the American military used the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, but if you know anything about American military history, you're not allowed to use outside manufacturers outside of the U.S. So
they had to use a couple of little tricks.
They use tricks, and there's so many of these tricks, and this is what makes it so cool. Just this morning, I saw one of these watches, which I'll mention in a moment, came up for sale at this famous Boston jewelers called European Watches. And basically, the trick was they changed the name. So they imported it in parts. The case, the hands, the movement, etc. Everything came separately. They built it in the U.S. so they could proudly say manufactured in the U.S. And at the very end, they changed the name. It was no longer Blancpain. It was Tornik Rayville.
Yeah. And funny thing is as well, they used it like the jewels. They had to produce the American-made, or they had to use American-made jewels, but the quality wasn't good enough. So they bought them. They claimed they used them, threw them away, and used the Swiss ones.
It's so cool to have this kind of stuff. So if you want to go see one of these, check out European Watches. They have, I'm assuming it's sold already, but it's on their Instagram page, and it's absolutely stunning. Super cool. Looks identical to the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Beautiful watch.
Yeah. So I mean, I personally prefer the 50 Fathoms bathyscaphe to the 50 Fathoms.
Haram! How dare you say such a thing?
Because, and that's the one I have, and the only reason for that is basically that I don't think 45 millimeters is the best size for me.
Didn't they make a 38?
No, that's the 50.
Was it only the bathyscaphe that they made 38?
Yeah, that's bathyscaphe is 43.5, and I think 38. The problem with that is 43 I can wear comfortably. It's fine. I love it. And it's a relatively short lug to lug. So it's lovely to wear. But the 42 millimeter 50 Fathoms, original 50 Fathoms, is perfect. But the problem is it's only available in limited editions. Only a couple of hundred here, 200 there, 100
the
there.
Hodinkee one, I just saw one came up, and they're going for 100,000 dirhams roughly, $27,000, and that's insane. I think. Yeah,
the no red, for example, is one of these, right? With no radiation indicator on the dial. Really lovely
Super
watch,
cool.
And it's so nice. And a good friend has that watch, and it's fantastic.
It is.
But that's the thing. They just miss out on an incredibly big market. The 50 Fathoms could be such a hard competitor for other brands.
I don't know why they don't sell it in a smaller size.
I don't know either.
Doesn't make any sense.
But enough talking about that. But,
so
that's the history. So they came in, that was in the 50s.
In the 50s. And then in 1953, Rolex retaliated with the Submariner. Yeah. However, Blancpain had the patent for the unidirectional rotating bezel, which means for the longest time, Rolex couldn't use that. And then they ended up having a bidirectional bezel. And then over time, when the patent expired, they were able to start using the unidirectional bezel on the Rolex Submariner. Of course, the Rolex Submariner when was this? In the 60s, they started needing additional capability, and hence the Sea Dweller was born. The brand Comex, which was a commercial diving company, basically they did things like underwater welding for boats, for pipelines, all kinds of weird stuff. But the thing was, they had to do them underwater. Excuse me if my voice is getting a little hoarse. So basically what happened was they started having to go deeper and deeper. The original Submariner was only good for 200 meters. So they had to find something additional. And both Rolex and Omega were given a chance to kind of bid for this. Omega came out with the Ploprof or the Plongeur Professionnel. In my beautiful French voice, my accent.
Sounds very nice.
Which means, translated, professional diver. Very clever name.
It does sound much nicer in French, though.
Ploprof. Very nice. And then Rolex came out with the Sea Dweller. And the big funny thing was Rolex did nothing but basically increase the case height. Meanwhile, Omega built an entirely new model. So of course, Omega didn't get it done in time. They were able to, Rolex came in, swooped in with this, basically it was a duct tape together, expanded Submariner, and they won. So they had to include what was called a helium escape valve. So the helium escape valve is a function of many dive watches that basically allows divers to go down in what's called a saturation chamber, or a diving bell. They pressurize the bell, it goes down, and then you're able to basically not have to stay.
You're staying in that pressurized environment for
prolonged periods of time. Days,
sometimes,
which means you don't have to depressurize and pressurize yourself every time you go down.
But during this time.
So by the way, the reason I know this, but I've heard about this previous, of course, through research, but what really hit it home for me is there's a book that came out recently called Depth Charge by Jason Heaton, who is, of course, I believe he's a member of the Grey NATO, as well as a Hodinkee contributing member. He wrote a novel, and it was a fantastically well-written novel, and it, in a fictitious environment, fictitious environment, it told you how all of this worked. And it was fantastic.
Yeah. So, but what happens during this time is during this pressurizing, or if you are pressurized in this depth, your watch eventually will
fill up with the gas that you're breathing.
Fill up with more helium, because that's what you have down there in this pressure. There is a higher amount of helium in your air. So that means it will seep into your watch over time. And then if you then depressurize too quickly, the helium wants to escape.
Hence the valve.
And that's why you need to have a helium escape valve.
Or do you?
Well, if you take it slow, no, there are watches that are so tight that helium doesn't even get in.
So this is exactly this is why Omega was so over-engineered. Is Rolex solved this issue by having this escape valve. Right. Meanwhile, Omega built the Ploprof without any need for this, because it was built to such insane tolerances that helium couldn't even enter the watch.
Yeah. So if helium doesn't get in, it doesn't need to escape.
Go out. Exactly.
So now if your helium escaped off your watch, do you need to refill it? Should I go to my watchmaker and ask for a helium refill? Because I accidentally opened my helium escape valve.
All the helium got out. Oh no.
Yeah. What do I do? Will it still work?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
The helium, once again, enters through the breathing of the gases, because once again, divers are not breathing regular nitrogen-oxygen mixture, which what we're familiar with, right? So they're breathing an entirely different mix. This is why in the Depth Charge book, by the way, I highly suggest people go read this book.
But what you breathe is a different story of what your watch is exposed to, right?
Of course. So. But, in the saturation chamber...
Yeah, there it's not.
There, it's your watch is breathing the same that you're breathing, and that's what we're talking about. You only need helium escape valves in saturation diving.
So
but the point is, hold on.
How many saturation divers are there in the world?
Oh, who knows? Probably at this point,
maybe 20,000.
I don't
maybe
even
50,000. If you
who knows?
really, like a lot. Maybe 100,000.
And are they buying Rolex Sea Dwellers?
The market is rather small for helium. I mean, or maybe there are more. I mean, I don't know. But it's generally, as a normal diver, I mean, snorkeler, even normal diver, you go down to how much as a normal
3 meters.
No, I mean, as a normal, even if you are a scuba diver.
Scuba divers, you're allowed to go down, I believe it's 14 meters, I think.
So I think there's all of this is a very, I mean, I think the watch that I once had, that I unfortunately sold, my Breitling Super Ocean from the Arrow, I think it was called Arrow Hand, had a depth rating of 1,500 meters and had an automatic helium escape valve. Now that was really cool at the time. And I made a joke when I went to the Breitling boutique when I actually gave this watch for service, and it came back, and he showed me some other watches, and he said, "Oh, this watch is water resistant to 2,000 meters." And I said, "Oh, that's a shame, because I usually go to 2,300 to 2,500 meters." So the salesperson looked at me and said, "Oh, sorry, sir, but then this watch is not for you."
So I believe, by the way, the funny thing is the maximum depth that a human being has gone is around 300 meters, right? Is that correct? So I'm looking at the PADI certifications. PADI is the certifying board of divers. And it says, if you have no license, you're able to go 12 meters. If you have a license, you're able to go 18. So 18 meters. And we're getting watches that are going 300 plus.
Yeah, so this is all what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get is, it's all theoretical.
It is.
But, and this is the big but, I think the watch industry has done themselves a big disservice with very unrealistic depth ratings. Right?
Can we talk about the Rolex Deep Sea Challenge?
Yes, we can talk about that.
What's the depth rating on that? 12,900 meters, I believe.
It was it 12,000?
It was Mariana's Trench, right? Mariana's Trench.
No, it was something not entirely, not to the bottom, I think. Or was it?
It was fully to the bottom of the Mariana's Trench.
No. I think there was one. They said they haven't tested it that deep. Omega has tested theirs deeper, I think.
So I thought,
but not as a production model. This is the only production model that is basically going that far.
36,090 feet, or I believe that says 11,000 meters.
Yeah. Anyhow, the point is it's going very deep.
Like it's going way deeper than any human being, and it was strapped to the outside of James Cameron's submarine, right? So it's not like a human being was wearing it. It was just strapped to the outside for the sheer purpose of demonstrating that, hey, look, we can do this.
Yeah.
So
that's, I think, a bit of a contest between Omega and Rolex. Omega came out with a deep sea, what is it called? Ultra deep,
correct.
6,000 meters.
Great looking watch, though.
Yeah, and you can actually wear it.
And it looks
The deep sea challenge is a bit of the Rolex
50 millimeters.
It's a bit, yeah. I think Rolex did really do the same thing they did before. They just threw metal at the solution, right?
Yeah.
As a solution at the problem. They basically said, okay, we just make it so fat and big that it will withstand that pressure.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily very innovative or advanced technology involved or anything
except
like that.
Except for the crown lock that they call it. I believe it's called, not the crown lock, sorry, the dial lock, or what is it? Basically they make the dial is sandwiched in, or the sapphire is sandwiched in, right? It says on the dial, there's a marking, or that's the only, hold on one second. I'm gonna look up a picture here. I'll tell you exactly what it says.
Right.
Ring lock system. So from what I understand, the ring lock system is a second screw that is then holding, is it the dial or the sapphire crystal on the watch. So once again, not very much innovation going on there, but
yeah. Anyhow, so there's a bit of a, as we just established, dive watches are important for people. People like the look of dive watches. People like to know that their watches will be water resistant no matter what, right? And you here's in the background maybe a dial. So now,
this
listeners.
is the Rolex Submariner.
Oh, I just wanted to say, listeners, if you can guess which was which. Too late. Okay.
Too late. Okay, how about this? We'll play a game. I'll do the Rolex and you do the Pelagos, and we'll see if the viewers and listeners, I should say no viewers, can tell the difference. So
at the same time?
No, not at the same time. We have to do one.
All right, then I start.
ASMR, right? Here's the other one. So, number one or number two, comment on our Instagram post and let us know which one was the Submariner and which one was the Pelagos.
Yeah. So, do we actually need dive watches?
No, of course not.
Okay.
But here's what it comes down to. I would argue that if you told someone to draw a watch, they would draw a Rolex Submariner. That is the prototypical design for a watch. And because of this, I think a lot of people have it in their mind that dive watches are the best type of watches to buy.
They are the best, everyday Gada watch.
Yeah, go anywhere, do anything.
Wear it every day, beta watch, whatever you want to call it, where you just can just do anything with this watch without worrying about it. It's robust, shock resistant, waterproof.
It does everything.
Mostly it will have a bracelet, though a lot of divers use either NATO straps or other textile straps for that. But anyhow, so this is what it. Yeah, but what I was coming earlier to is, or what I try to say is, the dive or the water depth rating, right?
Yes,
is I think where the watch industry has done a few things that are a bit weird, like a 30-meter water resistant rating.
This is kind of an issue for me because these ratings don't actually mean what you think they mean.
Yeah.
So if I have a 30-meter water rated watch, that does not mean I can go down 30 meters. The reason for this is for instance, the crown at that point is not a screw down crown, which we can talk ISO standards in a moment. But for now, the point is water can penetrate that watch if it's at a force equal to what 30 meters of water would have,
30,
right?
So 3 atmospheres.
Well, that's in a static setting, right? 30 meters at a static setting means the watch is not moving. As soon as you move, you're applying more pressure to the watch.
Yeah,
so this becomes the issue.
To a certain extent, that's what some people argue. Yes, some people argue no. That's not really.
So my rule of thumb: 30 meters, you don't get it wet. 50 meters,
exactly.
You can get it. It's splash proof.
Yeah.
100 meters, you do anything you want.
Yeah.
That's my rule of thumb that I use. I live by.
Exactly. I think before we get into all of these intricacies, because there's a lot of discussion in forums about that, about what is really the pressure of if you do water sports, for example, and you're sailing with your watch and you're very fast and you're holding your watch in the water while you're going whatever 25 knots. Is that more than 100 meters or not? Anyhow, let's not go there, because some people say yes, some people say no. There's no real scientific tests, I think, done so far, because it's not really a pressing matter for humanity. But how water inside some watches are. Okay. But my idea is there. I think it's a very, very good rule of thumb. 30 meters, water resistant. You can wash your hands without being scared. 50 meters, you can sit by the pool, maybe, you can
get splashed, but you don't want to take it in the water.
But once you go more and swim in the water for a prolonged period of time, at least 50 meters, better 100.
Yeah. So for me, I won't do less than 100, but for me also, I won't do it without a screw down bezel. Screw down crown.
Well, there are watches with 200 meters and stuff.
And without a screw down.
Without screw down.
Once again,
it's possible with the right gaskets
the whole
and
purpose
locks.
of a screw down crown is so that you know that it's not in the open position, right? So I'm not the brightest human being. Let's put it that way. I can be forgetful. I have tried to go in the water with a crown open, right? So now by habit, I'm always making sure my crowns are screwed in before I go in the water, before I go swimming. So this is the only purpose. With a non-screw down crown, you can accidentally open it. And as soon as you open it, you will no longer have water resistance.
Is that the same basically with a chronograph if you have the pushers?
So
some watches have screw down pushers for chronographs.
Exactly.
Some don't. So if you activate the chronograph underwater.
Oh, absolutely. So it basically has a gasket or an O-ring or whatever that's keeping it watertight. But as soon as you press it down, it no longer is. And this is the same thing with G-Shocks. If you press the buttons on a G-Shock underwater, it also is no longer waterproof. On the G-Shock website, this is written.
Okay.
So
for all of them?
For the one that I have, which is the DW5000, in the manual, it says, do not operate buttons underwater.
Yeah. It's always, I think, recommended not to fiddle around with your watch underwater.
Which is why I like diving bezels. Diving bezels you can fiddle with underwater.
Yes, that's
super
true.
Cool. So anyway, all right. So going down to this, do you need a screw down crown? Obviously not. However, it's a peace of mind that there is definitely some water resistance, right? Yeah.
What I find very funny is when people discuss, let's say, the water resistant rating of the Speedmaster, for example.
Oh, that's a hot topic.
It's a very hot topic. Where people say like, well, it's only 30 meters.
It's 50.
50. Okay, 50 meters. But I mean, Speedmaster is a special case because it also comes on bracelets. But a lot of these watches where this is being seen as a negative are coming on leather straps, which in any case, there are some that are water resistant that you can actually take diving.
Omega makes some good ones.
Panerai as well.
Yeah.
Where you're saying like, well, you can dive with that, no problem. So they are waxed or whatever, treated that they are sustaining that for a few times. But I wouldn't do that permanently because it will affect a leather strap eventually and the threads and everything else in it. So it might look a bit, ugly after some time, after a couple of saltwater expeditions, I think. But so if you have a watch that is on a leather strap, you don't take it into the water in general, right? Yep.
There's some dive watches that come on leather. I know my brother, he just sent me pictures yesterday. He changed his. He has an Omega Seamaster, the Heritage one, not the 300M, and that does come on leather.
Yep.
And that's still a 300-meter dive watch.
Right.
So, but it does come on. He bought it on the bracelet, but then got the leather strap as an addition, and he just swapped it yesterday and showed me pictures. So it is obviously possible to find these on on leather straps, but once again, that's what NATO straps exist, right? You throw it on a $10 NATO strap, and you can go do whatever you want.
Let's talk about NATO straps for a tiny second. Why is a NATO strap so good for diving?
Okay, so let me go into the whole
spring bars.
Spring bars. No, not just spring bars. The history of the G10 strap. So it's not actually called the NATO strap. It's called the G10, right? So it was called there was apparently a military ordering form that you filled in to get the strap for your watch. In the military histories, watches did not have spring bars. They had fixed bars. I guess they were spring bars, but they were welded bars. The idea was they wouldn't fail. Spring bars, if you've ever changed the strap, you could see, the bar fly across the room because they're springs, right? So imagine that happening underwater. Now, if you have a bracelet, if you have a leather strap, if either one fails on either side, the spring bars, your watch is gone.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Exactly. So That's where the idea of fixed lugs or fixed spring bars, as well as NATO straps came in. So NATO straps have a secondary strap that also goes underneath the watch itself. So a single pass as well as a secondary.
But even if it's single pass, one spring bar can still fail and the watch will not go from your wrist.
If it's a single pass. So the double pass has additional.
I don't know what the double pass there helps, but
that's an excellent question. Why is there a double pass? No, I think it's just to keep the spring bars separated from your hand, right? That's the only point. So you don't have to physically come into contact with the case back. You're only touching, your hand is only touching the actual strap itself.
Possible. But what I'm saying is that's the great thing about a NATO strap. So even if one spring bar fails, the other one will still hold the watch.
The watch onto your hand, correct.
Yeah, it will not go.
And this is where we get into watches like the FXD, the Tudor Pelagos FXD that I'm wearing right now that has fixed spring bars. So Correct. It doesn't really have spring bars. It has fixed lugs.
So basically you have two slots in your case.
And you just put a strap through.
Put the straps. Yeah. So it's one solid case that has that where you absolutely eliminate the chances of spring bars failing because you don't have any.
And then as well, if it falls off, it remains on your wrist.
So that means your arm has fallen off.
I guess the only way it would fall off is my arm would have to fall off. The strap could fail, I guess.
Yeah.
So now the strap would become the weakest point in the watch, right?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Good. All right. So I think then we have figured that out. So it's like we have our rule of thumbs. Our recommendation, the Lume Plotters recommendation.
Lume Plotters. Well, we haven't talked yet about actual watches. So let's recommend at every price point some watches for the audience.
Oui. Okay.
So both Ralph and I will give you for each price point a couple recommendations, and we'll see how much of us, how much we share in our recommendations. So I say we start very, very low. And say, if I have, Ralph, $500 or below, what would you buy?
G-Shock.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue. Is a lot of these are going to be G-Shocks, right? I would go a little bit different, and I would probably get a Seiko. I would be between a Seiko and a G-Shock.
I personally would rate Seiko as about $700 to $1,000. So because then they're getting really, really lovely.
Yes. So, but at the $500 price point, you could still get yourself a Seiko. What was it? Is the Samurai the one that's at the lower end of the Prospects range? I think it's the Samurai that you can buy about $550.
Yeah, you can.
And on Amazon, you can find them for even less.
Yeah. And again,
the Monster. The Monster is the one that's the cheapest one.
Yeah.
So you could buy a Seiko Monster for around $350, $400, and it is a 200-meter dive watch.
Okay.
So proper screw down. Unfortunately, we used to have the SKX in this below this price point, but then the SKX was discontinued in favor of these new Seikos that are no longer even dive watches. They just look like dive watches. Right. They have 100-meter water resistance as opposed to the old ones had 200. They have no more screw-down casebacks or screw-down crowns. So they have a lot of... Yeah.
So going to the next bracket.
Okay, what? 1,000?
1,000 and below.
Okay, 1,000 and below. What would you get?
I would go for the SPB line. I mean, the SPB 143, 145, 147, 149. These kind of... it's a Prospex 62 Mas, I think.
Yeah, the 62 Mas re-edition.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think this is it.
That one's over $1,000. That one's, I think.
No, they start lower, but then they don't have a bracelet. I think they start at $799. I think.
Maybe
the one with not with the bracelet. But there's only one, I think, with the brownish dial and the gilt. I think this comes with a rubber strap and NATO strap, 2 straps, but not a bracelet. Anyhow, but I think around this price you can find them on offer.
Okay, all right. So my pick
$1,000.
in under 1,000 is going to be the Baltic Aquascaf Titanium.
Ooh, that's also a lovely watch.
Right, it is 41 millimeters, 20 millimeter leg width, made out of titanium. I think it's $790 US.
Nice.
And I think that's a fantastic, from a micro brand, shout out to micro brands. Yeah. That's a fantastic watch. It's beautiful, stunning. Blue dial. All right. Next price, let's say $2,000.
$3,000.
Let's go 2,000 first because I have another one before 3,000. We can say 3,000. Go.
Let's do 3,000. You can go with a $2,000
$3,000
watch.
Let's agree Tudors are above that. So
in general, Tudors are above.
So we cannot pick a Tudor for this categery. So $3,000.
And we are also saying just normal retail price. So
of course, you can get them cheaper sometimes in aftermarket, or you can find them on Joma Shop.
I think then I would go with an Oris. Ooh. Yeah.
So I really like Orises in this price point. You can get yourself an Aquis, an Oris Aquis.
I should maybe I rewind my statement.
I'm going to say mine first before I would say I would go Doxa.
Yeah, brilliant choice.
Doxa 300M, 300T. Those are the quintessential dive watches, right? Orange dial.
Yeah.
Super cool.
No, they're fantastic.
What were you going to say?
Zin.
Okay,
I'm not so sure if you can get.
I think you can get a Zin for under 2,000.
Yeah.
Under 3,000 for sure.
Yeah.
So that to me, I think Oris, Zin, and Doxa, these are all very good for that price point. Trying to think if we're missing. I guarantee you we're missing something big, but
yeah.
Of course we are.
We are not prepared, so that's okay.
No, we didn't plan. We don't plan this out. That's what makes it so nice. Okay, going up.
Okay,
5,000.
5,000 and below. So
I remember what we were missing in the sub 3,000 Tag Heuer Aqua Racer.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to mention, because that is going up against these next watches we're going to talk in the sub 5,000 range. It's going to be competing with those, but for the previous price range.
I think I would probably just use this now and say, okay, Tag Heuer, Aqua Racer. There's a model, the titanium one, 500 meter water resistant, green dial, green bezel.
Is it titanium? I thought it was
the new
stainless.
one that was just.
I thought the new was stainless, and it's not 500. It's 300 meters.
No, then I'm referring maybe to a different one. There was one titanium, the green titanium one, which was just pretty recently came out. 15,000 dirhams, I think.
So Tag Heuer does have really good prices. One of my favorite Tag Heuer models, dive watches, is the Night Diver.
Yes.
The fully luminous dial. It's so cool. Okay. All right. So let's once again, these Tag Heuers are punching heavily above their price range.
But other than that, in the 5,000 range is obviously.
For me, 100% it's going to be Tudor.
Yeah.
Tudor is dive watch, right? They are the dive watch company.
Yes.
So at that price point, of course, at this price point, we're also getting into the Omega 300Ms.
Yeah.
So you could go Omega 300. That's to me a strange comparison, because I feel like the Tudors bring a lot of, you could go Pelagos and get modern dive watch. You could go Blancpain and go vintage dive watch style. The Omega is just totally different. It's in a different ballpark entirely. It's in the kind of Submariner category of looks. All right. $10,000.
Yeah. $10,000 is tough. I mean, for $10,000, you would get a Submariner, list price, retail price.
If you
could get one. So that is, of course, the quintessential dive watch, and to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You can't yet get
a Bathyscaphe,
a Blancpain for that money. No, that's not yet.
You're close.
But yeah,
you're about what, $1,000 off.
Pre-owned, if you would be very, very lucky, you could find one.
Pre-owned, you could find a Bathyscaphe for around the $7,000 range.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, but list price you can't. So let's stick to the normal retail list price.
Okay, so what's going against the Submariner?
Against the Submariner is only if you feel like you want to. I mean, there are like millions of them around, right?
Yeah. So what would you choose? Or you would say Submariner is your choice under $10,000?
No, I would say any Submariner. You can have the different dial colors if you like, different bezel colors, two-tone versions, non-two-tone versions.
Okay, so you pick sub, so I have to choose something else. Is that how it works?
No.
So I will pick something else under $10,000 that I would be interested in. It would be the Panerai, the Luminor.
Yep.
And that's right around the same price range. And it's a dive watch. It doesn't look like your normal dive watch. You could go JLC Polaris, also under $10,000.
Is it
It
under
is.
10,000?
So it's around 25,000 dirhams. It's under 30 on the bracelet.
No, not retail price.
Yeah, retail. They just had a price hike. So I'm curious what the new prices are.
Yes. Look it up.
I'm looking.
Looking.
So I think those are the big ones.
Don't think you'll find it under 10,000 list price.
What do you want to bet? I need to make sure I'm on the UAE website. That's kind of the issue.
What are we betting?
I am right.
I should have said something
I am
big.
right. Polaris automatic, 31,000 dirhams. Boom. It used to be much less. It used to be 25.
Yeah, I know.
But JLC just had a massive price increase.
Yeah.
So this went up about 7,000 dirhams. But this is on the bracelet. If you get it on the strap, it is still. Would you like to read this out to the listeners? How much that is?
28,500 dirhams, which is about 7,000. What is it?
It's less than $7,000, right? Right around $7,000.
Yeah.
So I think that is an absolutely fantastic bargain. $7,600.
Yeah. Is with the current version of the Polaris, is the internal rotating bezel that you operate with the second crown now screw down crown, the second this one, or
no
not?
idea. I don't think so.
Because I thought this was the oddest thing that I found with the Polaris as a diving watch, that you have two crowns. With one you have
to be able to operate the bezel freely underwater. So you cannot have a screw down crown for that bezel because you have to change it if you're underwater. So if you unscrew it, you're underwater to change the bezel settings, then you're already.
But the problem with that bezel was that it was not unidirectional.
That's true too.
So,
but I think the
weird
so going
thing
back to the ISO certification, the ISO certification says you cannot inadvertently change it. So maybe by having a crown that controls it, you're not inadvertently going to knock it.
Coming back, that's I think the idea as well from a unidirectional bezel is when you're starting to time your dive, the only thing you can do is
if you hit the watch,
if you hit the watch is
make your dive shorter.
Make your dive shorter because you feel that you're already longer underwater.
Correct, and this would make it
right
so that you don't die.
Exactly, because in the old times you had let's say 15 minutes of air in your tank.
So you set your dive bezel 15 minutes. You know how much you have. So imagine if you have bidirectional.
Start your dive. You put it onto your
the minute hand. You align the pip to the minute hand,
and then you know exactly when you have to. When you have to get out quickly. And if you accidentally move your bezel, the only thing is that you already think, 15 minutes have passed earlier than they actually have passed.
Which means you come up, but you still have air.
But if you do it the other way around, then you would have a problem because you could then think, I'm just underwater for 5 minutes. In reality, it's 15 minutes.
Exactly, and then you die.
And you have no oxygen left.
All right, one more category before we wrap this up.
Okay.
Infinite monies. What would you buy? Dive watch.
Now you go first. I have to think a bit.
All right, I'm going to go. This is one of the watches that I love. The Smurf. The Rolex solid white gold, blue dial, blue bezel. Submariner. I think it's such a stunningly cool watch. It is such a weirdly... I mean, okay, if I had the money, I would be we'd be saying mil subs. Or maybe a snowflake tutor, an actual MN snowflake tutor. But all said and done, we're just talking production models available today, I guess that's not even available today, but I would say a blue, white, gold Submariner.
I'm drawing a blank here, I must say. I think I'm at for me, I would probably go for precious metal, maybe something precious metal Rolex.
So we wouldn't be changing the watch.
On the other hand, because there's no, There's
RMs out there.
Yeah, but nah, I'm not a fan of RMs.
Me neither.
But maybe an AP, Royal Oak Diver.
Oh, you could do that, yeah.
That is nice, but it's also probably less than your Smurf, price-wise.
It could be, but once again, it's infinite money for you, so you can choose whatever you want.
So it's not a super high-end watch necessarily. I mean, it's an AP. It's a lovely watch. I had it on my wrist, and I was extremely surprised of how comfortable it wears, even though it's a bit on the bulky side. So I really love that watch. So maybe that would be mine. Yeah, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Diver with the easy strap exchange system. Comes on rubber straps. Very good.
There you go.
You get 2 in the box.
That's very cool.
It's something nice.
Free strap.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, guys. Like so I hope you learned something. We could spend some more time talking about ISO standards, but we'll do that another time.
Yeah.
Because we're going over time as always.
Please let us know where we're wrong, where you think you know better.
And you can reach us once again on our Instagram.
Yes, exactly.
Because you can't comment on a podcast. Yeah. So check us out on Instagram, Lume Plotters, comment, message. For every podcast, we put up a separate post, which means you can comment on those.
Yes, exactly. And if you want to have anything else, like a small message that you want to pass on to us, we're happy to read that out if it's suitable. And then we hear you again, or hear from you hopefully soon. And you will hear from us again.
And also if you have topics for podcast ideas, anything like that, let us know.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks for
listening. See you guys. Bye-bye.
See you again. Bye-bye.